Welcome to Dark Loops Productions, Whatchu Love, a podcast for asking individuals, what do you love? How'd you find it? And how do you keep it in your life? It's my pleasure today to be speaking with Mr. Victor Dandridge Jr., the hardest working man in comics. Victor, please tell the audience a little something about who you are and what you do.
Of course. I'm Victor Dandridge. I'm a phenomenological narratologist, aptly named by Dr. Scott Jordan, but I'm a self-publishing comic creator from Columbus, Ohio, and I self-publish through my imprint Vantage and House Productions, home of some of the most amazing comics of all time, including Wonder Care Presents. That's right. Wonder Care Presents The Kindergartens, The Samaritan, and The Trouble with Love. In addition to that, I teach through my imprint You Create Comics, which showcases the educational merits of comics, reading, and all that fun stuff.
That's so awesome. So, Victor, as I said, 3 questions. Question number 1, what you love?
Man, I think it's kind of obvious. I love comics. Okay, I'm a geeky guy. If you can see my office, there's comic paraphernalia all over the place. Posters from books that I've written, that I've self-published. There's original artwork on the walls. I actually have an Invincible standee cutout that I got from my local comic shop.
I can see it down there in the corner of the screen.
Yes. So I love me some comics, man. That's my
fantastic. And you also, it seems the comics life. I mean, I see you at a lot of cons. We've done panels together. There's a whole community there to love. Could you say a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I mean, it's even more than just the community. There's a culture behind it, right? There's a living system that when you're in the geek space, where it's not just a matter of this one particular facet. There's gaming, there's video gaming, there's cosplay, there's all these different facets that beautifully come together in locations called conventions, and we get to kind of celebrate, communicate, sometimes commiserate the things that we love and the ways that we love them. We can share our opinions about them. We can rejoice about some of the aspects of it. We can actually take part in it. And that's the other thing that I think that makes it such a great culture, is that it's not just something that you have to participate in by viewing and having a strictly voyeuristic side. You can actually touch it. It's very tangible. And you can grow within it. You know, I started off as a guy that only read comics, and over the last 30 years have become a guy that now makes comics. And even some of the guys that inspired my interest in reading are people that I know and love. They're my friends now. They're my peers. And that's part of that culture that is so accessible. So I absolutely adore that.
No, I love it. I mean, if I'm at a con and there's an artist or an author I want to meet, I find Victor at his table and I ask him if he'll introduce me to these
Come on, man,
people.
introduce us, man. Like,
no,
come
it's
on.
So cool.
Help me out.
So question number 2, how'd you find it?
So this is the craziest, most wonderful thing, because it's the 30th anniversary year of how I found comics.
You're not 30 years old.
No, I am not 30 years old. No. I'm 40. I was 10. I was 10 when I first got into comics. And honestly, that's a little late for a lot of people, right? I wasn't an avid reader. And the thing that got me into comics was the Death of Superman series. This was a highly coveted marketing prolific event in the comic book industry. It literally changed the way the industry worked. And the way that I got introduced to it was they announced it on the news. This wasn't, like I said, I wasn't a comic book reader. So they permeated general news media to make this announcement about this niche reading group, this phenomenon that's getting ready to happen. And I wanted to read that because I'm a pop culture kid. So, you know, growing up in the 80s, it was about the movies, it was about the cartoons, the music. So I knew who Superman was, even without being a comic reader. He's as much a part of Americana as everything. So the announcement that Superman is going to die, well, how? How do you do that? That I want to read. And it was from there that the hooks were put into me. Because like I said, I wasn't an avid reader. I hated reading at the time. So my mother, you know, being the the stalwart parent that she was, the moment that I said I wanted to read something, she was all over it. I'm throwing comics at you left and right. You're gonna have to dodge these comics because I'm here, plethora. Here's a heaping mound of comic books. And it took a while from when they made the announcement from when the Death of Superman actually came out. So I started reading comics off of the basis of this interest. And boom, that opened up, that side of the world to me. In addition to that, on my father's side of the family, I had 3 uncles that were interested in art, and I didn't know that. Like, these are guys that for my entire lifetime were sports guys, and I was a very skinny, frail little kid. So sports wasn't really my thing. And so all of a sudden I start talking about comics, and I find out that one of my uncles not only is a huge Silver Surfer fan, he's got some of the original books that came out in the late 60s, and he still had them and was willing to show them to me. And I find out that, like, he and 2 of his brothers could draw. And so we would spend time drawing together. So comics kind of became this beautiful glue for my family.
And that's something for you guys to grow into and, be a part of each other with. I did read some comics when I was younger as a kid by myself. And it wasn't until a decade ago or so that I started getting back into it because of anime, to be honest. But I went back and I found the issue of Submariner that I remember reading in the back of my parents' station wagon.
That's awesome.
10 or 12, and it's hanging in my basement now. And it's just these nice time-posts of who you are, where you've been, and what you've done. So, Victor, how do you keep this love in your daily life?
Well, it took some time, but I absolutely got to a point where I was able to turn my passion into my profession. And it wasn't an immediate move. Obviously, when I find this stuff at 10, it does capture my mind and my attention through my school age years. So I actually attended a Arts Impact High School. I got a certification in commercial art, which is the technical qualification of what kind of narration, storytelling, literature piece comic books are. And while I attended art school, I didn't stay very long. I didn't find it challenging or interesting enough to stay. So I had a stint of maybe from graduation, almost 10 years of living, a traditional, 9-to-5 working life, still enjoying comics, being an avid reader when I could, being a hobbyist when it came to making comics. But when I was about 28, I decided that I was going to jump in full time to do comics, and I quit a cushy state job and declared, eternally, comics are my life. This is what I'm going to do. So that's the number one way that I keep comics in my life. I make them. As you can see over my shoulder here, these are books that I've written. So this is the first series that I wrote called Hot Shot, and it was self-published by one of my best friends, Mike Watson, and his imprint Freestyle Comics. And that precedes me creating my own imprint, Vantage and House Productions, where some of these books come from. And just kind of being in that space of recognizing, I want this so badly, I want to make some myself. Like, that's how hardcore I want this to be a part of my life. In addition to that, like I mentioned before, I created the You Create Comics line. And the way that fits into things is I want to inspire others to follow in a similar vein. Comics changed everything for me, and I know that I'm not alone in that. So let me create product and programming that I can bring to schools that will help highlight that interest in other people and kind of open up those doors, pay it forward as it is. And of course, I live on the con circuit. I am a moderator for comic creators and celebs. I am an advocate for creators in finding their voice in the Comic-Con market, figuring out how to build partnerships within that. I'm a panelist. I'm a guy that is featured on fun conversations like we're having right now, and really kind of encouraging other people to take part in this culture and community that we've built.
As I understand it, you've also helped teach college courses on comic books.
A little bit, here and there. Yeah,
what I love about what you're saying,
shout out to Reggie Con.
Exactly. What I love about what you're saying, Victor, is that there's a sense. This is something I try to teach as a psychologist. Try to teach students and maybe non-students who want to have the conversation. Life is different when you're moving through it with a goal. It's just so different. I like to say the slings and arrows are easier to take when you're headed somewhere, because the slings and arrows are coming, y'all. There's no way that you're going to get through this life non-challenged. So when you got somewhere you're headed, you're still getting challenged, but it just feels different. And it gives rise to a love that can be very hard and brutal.
I'm not going to lie to you. I've been doing this full time for the last 12 years. I don't think I could ever go back. It doesn't matter what I do now, it has to have comics as a very obvious tether in order for me to be successful in doing it. Because to go back to a very closed, rigid Monday through Friday work schedule, I couldn't do that. I've tasted freedom, and
there you go.
like literally I've tasted freedom, and because it is so involved with this thing that I've loved since I was 10, it's magic, and you can't put that back in the bottle. It'd be impossible.
Well, I got to tell you, one of the adult delights of my later life now at the moment is actually meeting people like you and falling in love once again with the things I loved as a kid. It's not that I gave them up when I went to graduate school. It's just that I had to put my head elsewhere. And it's just delightful to have them all come back full circle in this world of narrative, right? So,
absolutely.
Victor, thank you so much for joining me on What You Love.
My pleasure.
I have immense respect for you and the life that you live, and all the best in the future.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to see more of this series.
Thanks, man. You take care.
You too.